Chapter 19. Gabriella had been someone who had to know about things now. She pulled Hannah into the small kitchen before she had a chance to get to the shower. And as she made a sandwich for both of them and made tea, Hannah preferred coffee, but being pregnant she didn't want to take a chance. Hannah sat at the table in her robe, which had gotten a little tight. She didn't have much choice in a wardrobe, and she would need more things, but for now, she would have to be satisfied in wearing a sweater, tunic, and leggings. Hannah sat in her robe and told Gabriella about Lisa and the witch, and all that had happened. When they looked up, they were still talking and eating lunch. "I have to get to the shower. We've talked enough and I'm tired," Hannah declared, standing and walking to her room, dropping the robe and kicking away her slippers. Looking down at the flip-flops, it reminded her of Lisa, and she didn't want to think about it, at least not now. All she wanted to do was take a shower to do away with her unclean feelings. Before entering the shower, she placed the flip-flops inside her closet. She would keep them. She couldn't bear to part with them because Lisa had given them to her. The dress she wished she could burn. Standing in the shower as the warm water washed over her and took away some of the grunge, but not her fears, which had covered her like a bad dream and pushed her to consider killing Sasha. It was something she never thought would enter her mind. That wasn't her or Gabriella. They were two girls in college who wanted the fun things out of life when they were young. A man who loved them, and in Gabriella's case, two men. She had liked the reverse harem thing and thought how that would work out with her dating Brian and Chase at the same time. So far it had worked out perfectly for her. She turned off the shower when she felt she had cleaned and rid herself of the thoughts of Lisa, Taisia, and Sasha. But never Jovani. He would be the father of her child, and she could never forget him. He would be somewhere in her conscience forever, but she had to get on with her life and face that she could never marry Jovani. Not because he was a vampire, but because he was already married. Forgetting to place a towel near, she stepped out into the bathroom naked. Perhaps she had stayed in the shower too long because it was indeed dark inside. Making her way to the lights to turn them on, she placed her hand on the small lamp on the vanity to see her way to the outlet. She felt a cold hand in the darkness that made her blood chill and her hand shake. "Don't be afraid," a warm, strong voice said. "I would never hurt you." Hannah knew that voice. Hannah knew the sweet sound of a whisper in her ear. It was the voice of Jovani. He flicked the small lamplight on, and in the dim light she saw his face. She wanted to smile, but she wouldn't allow herself. She wanted to cry, but she held that back too. Turning, reaching for a towel to cover herself, Jovani pulled it gently from her hands. It didn't take much effort. With Hannah's eyes burning with disgust as Jovani moved closer to her, and with her back to the wall, she said, "Don't touch me." Jovani's eyes surveyed her body, and she placed her hand over her breasts and one over her mound. What caught Jovani's eyes were the small bump in her stomach. He pulled her hands down. "What is this?" As he passed his cold hand over her warm stomach, a wide smile came to his face, and for the first time she saw him completely. She didn't know he had dimples. She never noticed that before. Deep dimples on both sides of his chiseled jawline. "You're pregnant. I'm going to be a father." His eyes flickered closed and opened, and he exhaled. Hannah pulled away from Jovani in his sudden burst of euphoria, and she reached for a towel to cover her body. "Leave me, Jovani. Get away from me. It's because of you that Sasha and her witch friend Taisia want me dead. If she knew of a baby, I would probably be dead now. They wouldn't dare try anything." His steely eyes bore into the space behind Hannah. "Where have you been? They have already tried to kill me, or haven't you been listening? You can be everywhere except when and where I need you. If it hadn't been for Justin, they first would be dead by now. He's probably dead already." Hannah's voice filled with pain and desperation. "Justin is okay. His father found him, and I came here to talk to Sasha about you. I didn't know you were in danger. I thought my threats would be enough, but they aren't. I will have to. And he wouldn't disclose his thoughts to Hannah. She was already looking at him as the vilest of men, but in his case vampires. About me. You were begging for my life. So that's why she had that witch kidnap me and kill my friends. Jovani walked closer to Hannah. Took her in his arms. I did not think she would challenge me. And then kill others out of vicious vindictiveness. Then you know nothing about women, Hannah said, turning her back to Jovani. He moved to her, placing his arms around her and turning her to face him. Do you want me to take those thoughts of your friends dying from your mind? Certainly not. I want to remember all that has happened to me. Not unless you can take yourself from my mind too. Jovani's eyes flashed a deep blue like a rushing river, and he said to her, Never. Never will I give you up, and never will anyone or anything hurt you again. He brought her closer to his chest and tipped her face up to him. He gazed into her eyes. They had changed from the innocence of a young girl who was looking for someone to love her, to a cold and cautious mother protecting her young. He picked her up in his arms and placed his cold lips to hers. He needed to feel her skin and smell her scent. The sweet smell of youth and beauty of her body. Jovani placed his lips on her closed lips, and she didn't react. She was as cold as if she was dead to him. Put me down, Hannah said. I don't know if I want you around me anymore. It's not good for my health or my baby. Jovani's eyes narrowed and flashed red. You're mine. There is no one who could and would hurt you and my baby. I have asked the Vampires' Council to dissolve the marriage, if you can call it that, and they said only if a child was involved. Now there's a child. You have to come with me. I will protect you. Can you protect me during the day? Jovani couldn't answer that. It is that witch who will kill me and not Sasha. She's probably pissed that I was able to get away from her. And no thanks to you. Jovani lowered his head as if dejected in not being there to save the woman he loves when she needed him the most. If you come with me, I can keep you safe. I'll take you where no one, not even Sasha and that witch Tysia, can find you. For a moment Hannah smiled, and Jovani brought Hannah to him and kissed her. This time she didn't reject him. She needed him as much as he needed her. She wanted him as much as he needed to be with her. Their mouths opened for each other. Their bodies responded to each other. His erection hard and needy for no one but her. She opened her legs for his penetration. Hannah tore open Jovani's black shirt and black drawstring slacks and let them fall to the floor. He stepped out and kicked off his black velvet loafers with the letter J in gold. Jovani placed her on the counter as he kissed her. He felt her wet and smelled her need. As he moved closer to her, never leaving her lips, he pushed into her. Slow and soft, and finally with a breath into her mouth, he said, How could I ever leave you in this feeling? I can't imagine living through the ages without ever experiencing this. His hands ran over her stomach and down between her legs. He brought his finger up to his nose. You're all that's making me want to be, to exist. You and my baby, he whispered into her ear, then he gazed into her perfect green eyes. Then he pushed into her and stared at her. Looking at Hannah's quiet, serene face, Jovani saw that she had given in to him. Her head fell back with full happiness and she murmured, I have never felt like this before in my life. It's wonderful. She clutched his silky hair, and then she held his hard, strong, muscular, cold body, and he moved further into her body, and when she gazed into the mirror, it was as if they were one as they reached their climax together. The moans of pleasure of their orgasms fell on each other's closed mouth, drowning out the groans of their heated kisses, as their tongues mingled and explored, as Jovani gripped Hannah's hair, pushing into her while kissing her full breasts as they enjoyed the carnal desire of longing for each other. She fell into his arms, and he gathered her up and brought her to her room, and lay her in her bed, and covered her with the comforter, and he sat in a chair and watched over her until dawn crept through the window. He leaned over her and kissed her. "I'm coming back for you. And this time we'll get married, even if I have to walk into a church." "Well, maybe not, but I will return tonight." Hannah, conflicted, didn't know if she wanted to be married this early in her life. She could have a child out of wedlock. Now that's a thought. Many women do this. A vampire child rushed through her anxious mind. What choice did she have? She wanted her child, and she loved the father, even if he was taking her into an unknown world with hidden consequences. Opening her eyes somewhat, she looked up at Jovani and said softly, "I'll be here waiting for you." She whispered into the pillow, not wanting him to leave, and if it was a dream, it was a wonderful one, she thought. Marriage to the man of her dreams. But when he left, it was as if he took a shield away. One that she needed to protect her from all that wanted to harm her. She felt it, and she began to experience the menacing outside forces. Stirring about in her bed, half asleep, restless, she felt someone in the room with her standing nearby. She didn't turn to see. She was too tired, too drained from what she had previously experienced in Virginia, and she felt as if she could die, and at that moment she didn't care as long as she could get some rest, so she gave in to sleep. "I thought he would never leave," Taisia said with a crooked turn of her mouth, watching down at Hannah sleeping, not so peaceful. Then Taisia faded into the walls with a sly grin. Hannah didn't realize she had been sleeping for hours, but it felt like seconds when she heard a pounding on her door. "Wake up, Hannah. Don't you think you've been sleeping far too long? We have to talk. I have a plan."